We are now in the penultimate week of the Tachyon Draft League, and your Ontario Place Serene Grace are still undefeated going into week 6. This week we're going up against Mist and his team, which has a lot of physical threats, and the speeds are very middling. So the good thing about him is we can either underspeed with Trick Room or outspeed with Tailwind, and the only threat that can outspeed us is Unburden on Sneasler. Or if we go Trick Room, our Dondozo and Coalossal and Duocean will all underspeed everything that he has. So I really tried to make hard Trick Room work this week, but I just couldn't make it work. So we're just going with a more normal Tailwind mode that's still going to be good enough to outspeed everything that he has. The threats that he's showing this week are, first of all, he has the Unburden on Sneasler, which can outspeed everything on my team and get really good damage in. He has Mimikyu, which is a threat for setting up Trick Room. So because I'm not bringing Trick Room, I don't have anything that stops it if he goes for a hard Trick Room mode with a Mimikyu. His Grimmsnarl with Prankster and Trick is always going to be a problem, as well as the screens. His Malamar is going to be a problem because Topsy-Turvy will take out everything if I try to set up. So if I try to go for Dondozo this week, he can Topsy-Turvy it and it just won't work. So I just had to rule out Dondozo completely. And I also had to rule out interesting things like weakness policy on Coalossal, because it was just too big of a risk to have something set up and then have it just get taken out by Malamar. The Pokemon that has been getting the most kills in the whole league is his Chandelure. So I had to bring some respect for that, but the only special attacker on his team is the Chandelure. So the main threats I had to prepare against were all defensive, and then I still had to bring enough special defense respect for just one Pokemon, which is a little bit awkward to build around. This is the team that I built up, and the way that this team works is primarily that I am getting set up with Murkrow and Gholdengo and sweeping with Terra Steel Make It Rain, and then I had Weezing and Slaking as my leads, as enforcers, just to get as much damage in as I could before I could safely set up with Murkrow and Gholdengo. I brought Scyther and Coalossal mostly as backups in case something went wrong, but I was really never planning on running them. I didn't see a good use case when they would be good. So let's go through the team. First of all, Murkrow here needed to have Tailwind to set up. It needed to have Foul Play to have a move that deals damage into Mimikyu. It needed to have Haze because Haze Make It Rain was the main damaging game plan. And then the last move was Quash. I had Protect for a long time, but then my game plan changed out of leading Murkrow and Gholdengo and into leading Weezing and Slaking. So because I'm not going to be leading Murkrow, I don't have to worry that much about fake outs. I still have Terra Ghost on it as well, so having a Protect was a little bit redundant. And so I put Quash on it. It gives me good options in case I get Trick Room set up. It gives me an option in case Sneasler Unburden is actually really scary. So I needed Quash for those extra purposes. He's mainly built defensively. So he's built so that he can survive a close combat hit from Sneasler and most of the other defensive hits. And it works out really well for us actually this week. For Gholdengo, his main job is to Terra Steel and click Make It Rain because he has choice specs. So Terra Steel Make It Rain can one-shot a Sneasler. It can do really good damage into Rillaboom and take it out in 2 shots for sure if it has Assault Vest, 2 shots for sure if it doesn't have Assault Vest, and 2 shots with a good chance if it does have Assault Vest, even if it has Grassy Terrain up. But if it has Grassy Terrain, then my chances of 2-shotting it with Make It Rain are pretty low. It works better if I can Haze, but I need to Tailwind turn 1, and then I need to Haze after that, and I can't always guarantee that that's going to be safe because I might need to have Murkrow get faked out. So it's built so that I can do really good damage into most of his threats. It takes out Rillaboom maybe in 2 shots. It takes out Mimikyu in 1 hit. It takes out Sneasler in one hit. It can take out Grimmsnarl in one hit. And then against Corv, I had Thunderbolt, and against Chandelure, I had either Shadow Ball if he stays regular, or Power Gem if he tears to fire. I needed to have just some option to click into all of them that was relatively safe, just in case Make It Rain was going to get resisted. So he's built pretty tanky, and I didn't think that I was going to survive any single target attack from Chandelure, so there's no point giving him any significant special defense. The defenses were built so that he has good defenses into a high horsepower from Rillaboom. Next, let's look at our Weezing. Our Weezing, he was built so that he didn't need any more defense than normal. He already is resisting he's not resisting, but he's taking little damage from a high horsepower from Rillaboom, so I didn't need to put any more in there. And so the rest of his points could go into special defense to bring him up to a more respectable level against Chandelure, as well as his special attack, so he can do as much damage as he can into all the threats. The considerations were between Sludge Bomb, Thunderbolt, and Flamethrower. But Flamethrower puts me at risk against Chandelure and gives me nothing that can hit neutrally into that. So I decided to go with Sludge Bomb and Thunderbolt. It lets me hit at least neutrally into his entire team. It lets me hit special effective into the Grimmsnarl, the Corviknight, and the Rillaboom. And then I can hit neutrally into Mimikyu, and I can hit neutrally into Chandelure, and that seemed good enough for me. The special attack was enough to get a good roll to two-shot a Corviknight with Thunderbolt, and an okay roll to two-shot a Rillaboom with Sludge Bomb if the Rillaboom has Assault Vest. I needed Will-O-Wisp because his entire team basically is physical, so if I get a Will-O-Wisp off, it just turns off one of his Pokemon, which is super helpful for me. And then between the Terras, I wasn't really tearing him very much, but Flying seemed better than Grass, just in case he was going to have Chandelure do damage into him. I wanted to at least be neutral. And then Citrus Berry is just helpful so that the recovery can go through. The other consideration was with maybe Leftovers, but really he was either going to take a lot of damage or he was going to stay at full and nobody was going to target him, so I kept him on Citrus. Yeah, and obviously he'd be light on Murkrow here. I want to go to Slaking next. So Slaking, he had to have max attack because he needed this much attack to be able to take out Chandelure with knockoff, and that's really all there is to it. The rest of the moves here were I needed Protect because he's going to be leading, and I wanted to be able to protect against fake outs and not just have to burn a Terror right away. I needed Brick Break against screens. I needed Double Edge as a main damage option. That's just good into everything. And then he was set up so that his defenses were good enough to survive 2 hits from a Chandelure. He has a good chance of surviving a close combat from most Sneaslers. And then he's going to take not that much damage from the rest of his physical guys. His only physical threat that I was worried too much about was Sneasler. Next, I was never really planning on bringing Scyther or Coalossal, but they're here just in case something went wrong. The main thing that Scyther has that's unique is I gave him Feint, and that was mainly so that I had a priority option in case they have Trick Room up, or I have a priority option in case I need to do something into the Sneasler. It does outspeed Sneasler with Tailwind and Unburden if the Sneasler has no speed. So I didn't feel the need to give him maximum defenses because really he's not going to survive any super effective hit. And he does have enough defense to probably survive 1 hit naturally from everyone else because he has such good natural resistances. Otherwise, he has Terra Flying, so he can do a bunch of damage with Dual Wing Beat if that ever comes up. He has Brick Break as a backup option against the screens. He has U-Turn because I don't want to keep him in anyway. He does a lot of damage into most of his team, but I just didn't feel like he was solid enough to bring because I needed Eviolite on Murkrow, and without Eviolite, he just doesn't survive against enough of his team. Coalossal is mostly here as a backup in case of Trick Room. So he underspeeds everything on their team. So if they do get Trick Room up, I have him as a good option. And he has Flash Fire so that he can absorb a hit from Chandelure. He's set up so that he can be maximally defensive, because if I don't have Terra on him, then he's going to go down to any hit from anything that is super effective, like any ground hit. Or even a close combat from Sneasler is pretty likely to take him out. So I had to give him as much physical defense really as I could. I gave him Terra Flying because once he's Terra Flying, then he can't get hit by any of the super effective attacks that I was really worried about. They don't have any water coverage at all, so the only super effective attacks I'm worried about are Flying and Ground. Sorry, not Flying. Ground and Fighting. So Flying will resist both of those. I gave him Assault Vest so he can survive more than 2 hits from Chandelure, which was really helpful because otherwise I was just giving him leftovers, and that really wasn't helping me any much. And the only move I thought I was losing was Curse, and I never felt safe enough to use Curse because I would just die to another hit anyway, unless there was Trick Room up. So I gave him Assault Vest so he survives more, and then I gave him another attacking move. Stone Edge is actually depressingly bad because it has less accuracy than Fire Blast, and I would never use Fire Blast. So I gave him High Horsepower instead as a move into Chandelure. Both Stone Edge and High Horsepower will probably 2-shot Chandelure, so I don't need to be taking a high-risk move with Stone Edge if I don't have to. I can just High Horsepower to target Chandelure, and then hit with Flare Blitz as the main damaging move, and Heavy Slam specifically to use against the Grimmsnarl and the Mimikyu. The special defense doesn't need to be increased anymore because I have Assault Vest already, so I could put a lot into his physical defense, like I'm saying before, and then the rest of it went into attack. He's not very strong, but he does survive a lot. For once, I'm recording this right after I play it, so I can actually have the calculations open. Taking a look at his team that he brought, the first thing to notice is he's brought Gogoat, and he has not brought Sneasler. So his main speed threat is just not here, meaning that I think that his main plan is going to be to try to set up a Trick Room, and otherwise I don't see a Malamar, so he's also not brought it, thinking that I can't bring Dondozo. If I just brought Dondozo, he probably would have been in a worse spot. But it looks like he's brought Gogoat, partially as an answer to that. My game plan still has to be the same thing, so I bring the Weezing out, and I see that he's brought out Chandelure and Mimikyu. I know that I'm set up to outspeed Chandelure probably, and Knockoff takes out Chandelure in 1 hit. So I go for the Knockoff, and there goes Chandelure. I see he has Custap. If he was able to survive, then Custap would be a big problem, but I really don't see what he's surviving. I was 100% to take out Chandelure there. He misses the Will-O-Wisp. Ultimately, I don't think it mattered for him, but it is really unfortunate. And then luckily for me, I hit the Will-O-Wisp, so that takes out Mimikyu essentially, and he's no longer a threat. He brings out Rillaboom. I protect on Slaking because I don't want to burn a Terra here, and he goes for the Fake Out on the Slaking, and I get to also block the Will-O-Wisp. I get a Sludge Bomb out into Mimikyu because I want to break his Disguise, and now I'm in a really good spot. The next turn, I can't protect with Slaking anymore, but I know that Knockoff is going to do really good damage into Mimikyu, and I also want to see the item, so I go for Knockoff into Mimikyu. This is really the only turn that would have mattered because of the burn. So even if I had done half that amount of damage into Mimikyu, he'd still be in a really bad spot. He gets the burn off of me finally, and then U-turn on Weezing, goes into Grimmsnarl, which isn't a great spot for him. It looks like his Grimmsnarl is actually just not very defensive, because that Sludge Bomb shouldn't be doing that much damage. I did 75%, and he Yeah, I shouldn't. I did a lot of damage here, and I didn't expect to do that much. And now his Mimikyu is going to go down to burn anyway next turn. So I want to get good damage into Grimmsnarl. I think with even as a burned Slaking, I would have taken out Grimmsnarl anyway in that turn. Yeah, it would have been close. Double Edge would have done. It would have been close, but it would have done really good damage into it anyway. And then obviously Play Rough doesn't do very much damage. Mimikyu goes down to burn, and he's down 3 to Pokemon now. He doesn't have anything left, and I get to just put some good damage out. He gets to Fake Out, so he gets another turn of burn damage. But now I have both of my guys up. I want to see what item he has. So he has Assault Vest, and he doesn't even take out with U-turn, and his Rillaboom goes down to Sludge Bomb. It's interesting that he's using U-turn as his attacking move. He probably just doesn't want me to see what other moves he has. I mean, he could have Protect, he could have Wood Hammer, he could have Resty Glide, he could have High Horsepower. All of these are good options for him. I cannot have Protect, I guess, because he has Assault Vest. So I get to take out Game 1 really safely. I don't lose a single Pokemon. The burn miss is really unfortunate for him, but ultimately I don't think it mattered. I didn't even bring out my main game plan. For Game 2, that frame rate was not good, so I'm just watching the replay here. Let's see what the leads are. He brings out Mimikyu and Rillaboom, so a little bit of different leads here, but still no ability shields, so nobody here gets to use their abilities. I have a concern about him going to burn me. I have a concern about Fake Outs. So this time I decide to protect Weezing, thinking that he might go for a Fake Out on Weezing, and I can't get any damage in. So I still don't want to burn the Terra, and I think I'm okay if I get burned. So he unfortunately goes for the Terra Steel Terra Blast onto Weezing, which I block with Protect, and that's a huge benefit to me. And at this point, I'm really ahead. He doesn't have Fake Out anymore. I have Slaking with almost full HP, and so I get a strong hit into Rillaboom, and my goal was to try to hit Rillaboom and then try to Sludge Bomb and take it out, but that just doesn't work. He switches to Corv. He goes for a Terra Blast, which I know I survive because I'm so specially tanky. Citrus goes off. I don't hit the Corv. I don't have any plans to hit the Corv on this turn because, you know, he's not really that much of a threat. He can set up Tailwind, but I have priority Tailwind in the back, and I kind of actually want one of my guys to get taken out. I kind of want Weezing to get taken out so I can bring in Murkrow, so that I can get the Tailwind up afterwards. So anyway, this turn I protect because I want to break the disguise on Mimikyu, and then Mimikyu goes for another attempt to burn and misses it. Even here, I don't know that this would really have mattered, because now I want to get Tailwind set up, thinking that he's going to Tailwind. I go for a Brick Break into Mimikyu, which kills, but it would have done half even if it didn't kill. And then he gets his Tailwind up, I get Murkrow in safely. I have priority Tailwind ready to go here. I don't even want to switch out Slaking because I don't want my Gholdengo to take any damage. I know that he's burned his Terra already, so and Corviknight is already pretty low, and he doesn't have his berry anymore. So I know that if I can get Tailwind up, then I can Terra Steel, and I can just take out Corviknight in 2 hits with Make It Rain anyway. So I just want to get Tailwind up. I let Slaking loaf around, and then his turn, he goes for a bulk up on Gogoat. I still don't really know what the plan is with Gogoat. Now I know I predict the Fake Out onto Slaking, and I want to keep him in. So I burn my Terra to Terra Ghost here. I take out Rillaboom, which I know I have a good chance of doing because he's Assault Vest. on the Rillaboom. I want to get some damage out, and here I actually survived the Wild Charge. A max attack and +1 Gogoat only has a 68% chance of taking out this Murkrow. It's very, very tanky. So I'm glad that I haven't put so much into physical defense investments this week. Now I get the Tailwind up, and now we're nice and safe, and I can switch out the Murkrow to go back into Weezing so Slaking can get another turn, and I know that I outspeed, I at least outspeed the Corviknight here, but I also outspeed the Gogoat. The Gogoat is not very fast at all. And so I take it out, and then the Corviknight goes into Weezing, and Weezing's natural defense is good enough for that. Weezing didn't need to have any more defense to be maximally defensive against that Brave Bird hit from Corviknight. If Corviknight has Iron Head, it would have been a much safer move to use, but he doesn't go for it, unfortunately. And so now it's just one Corviknight against Slaking. I actually didn't realize I had Tailwind still up here, so I could have gone for Thunderbolt into Corviknight and just taken it out. But at this point, I'm so ahead, and I know that Corviknight only has single target attacks that thinking that Corviknight outspeeds Weezing, I wanted to be more safe. And so I put Protect on Weezing, I get myself taken out, and he has Iron Head, so he should have just gone for Iron Head into Murkrow that hedges against me switching into Weezing. Anyway, now I get Murkrow back in. I have two guys that can attack. Either hit is going to take it out, so I just go for attacks on both of them. Take out the Corviknight, nice and clean, relatively. I could have actually been 8-0 and not lost a single Pokemon, but that's okay. I still get the win. And we're still #1 and undefeated in the league. Next week is the last week of the regular season, and so the other thing that is going to happen next week is Pokemon Champions is coming out, and I can't play Regulation F on Showdown, so I have no way to prepare. I have no idea what I'm going to do, and I have less reason to even be prepared. So at this point, we'll see what I can come up with next week. We'll see if I can maintain this undefeated record. I really do hope to stay undefeated throughout the regular season, and then in the postseason, we'll see how dedicated I be to this league. But I'm really proud of the way that I've done so far. I'm really proud of how I've been able to maintain an undefeated record going into the last week, and we'll see if I can keep all of that up.